Gold, of course, also putting in a new all-time high this year, correcting rather, well, to a reasonable amount today, along with silver and especially platinum. Platinum taking a 14% hit so far. We're going to talk about that metal in just a moment. But nonetheless, gold looking incredibly strong as we head into 2026. So I'd love both of your overall thoughts on the gold market right now and how you see the metal performing in the new year. Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, not to sound like a broken record, but I think we're early with gold as well, right? And it's fun because similarly, when I talk to people about gold who are starting to become aware of gold, or even the mainstream media, right, they're talking about a safe haven asset or a hedge. And I think, again, they're kind of completely missing the mark of what's really going on with the dollar and the US Treasuries and everything that's happening. And not just a reset in terms of the dollar as a fiat currency, but generally fiat currencies as a whole, right? Globally, there's a breakdown. And I believe that a new gold-based system is being built right now. It's not just that central banks are buying and stockpiling gold to have it as a hedge, right? Positioning for a completely new system, one that is based in something you can trust, which would be a physical precious metal like gold or silver. And I believe you look at the BRICS, you look at what's going on with the Shanghai Gold Exchange, you look at the Belt and Road Initiative, right? They're not only against stockpiling gold, they're actively going out and creating opportunities to settle gold, to use gold, to have gold again be at the center of this new monetary system. And I think a lot of people are still catching on to just how massive this is going to be. So that's my thoughts on it.
And Mario, what are your thoughts on gold so far this year, how you see it headed into next year, and any comments you'd like to make on the possibility of this monetary reset occurring using gold? Because we've heard a lot of different theories out there from, this chip system, which is a yuan-based payment system, but supposedly could involve gold backing as well. There's been talk of gold on the blockchain. Peter Schiff thinks that's going to be the path forward. Gold-backed bonds, so you're not directly introducing gold as money, but you're putting it into fixed income markets. How do you see that potentially playing out, and just how you see gold positioned right now?
Yeah, first, I'd say I agree with what Taylor said about uh, a gold back system. I think BRICS are working. BRICS and also countries like the Gulf cooperation countries, like the Persian Gulf or Arabian Gulf, whatever you want to call it. And I think they're also going to bring in silver as part of the monetary architecture. But sticking to gold, yeah, I think the fact that they're also building vaults, like in Saudi Arabia and other places, tells me that this gold is going to move around. It's going to be used to settle surpluses and deficits, current account. And yeah, I think we're going back to a kind of 19th century gold standard where you had different currencies. Of course, sterling was the strongest currency because it was the strongest economy. So probably the Chinese currency will be the strongest, but you have to have gold. And I think the BRICS and the countries that are close to BRICS, they're looking at 40%, I think, backing for their currency, which is I think is more than enough because during the 19th century, during the heights of the British Empire, it was about a third here in the UK. So yeah, the prospects for gold are good in that sense, in the geopolitical sense. I think, as Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, I think right when he took office, we're not in a unipolar world anymore. We're in a multipolar world. And I don't think the Americans, especially the Trump administration, wants a very strong dollar. He needs the dollar weak. And I think the US economy is not doing as well as GDP tells you. I think a lot of that GDP growth is coming from these data centers for AI. And next week, we've got non-farm payroll. I think that's going to be a very weak number. And that's going to help gold too, because the Fed will have to put the foot on the pedal and inject a lot of liquidity. And they're going to cut rates aggressively, I think, this year, and that's going to put a rocket up the gold price. Yeah, I think gold looks really good. We doubled. I mean, we've doubled in the last 2 years. Why can't we double in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, one adage that gets thrown around is that, the higher the gold price goes, the more geopolitical uncertainty exists, the more, economic chaos, financial systems failing, bank failures, et cetera. It's kind of connected to the point where many people say, a very common quote is, I don't want to live in a world with $10,000 gold. Or if gold goes to 10,000, doesn't matter because you've got so many other problems to deal with in that world. Maybe a loaf of bread costs $100 or whatever. I wonder if you kind of adhere to that adage, if you think that that doesn't really make sense. Because in my mind, in a world where Bitcoin can get to 120 something thousand dollars a coin, why can't gold get to $10,000? Why would that imply that the world is falling apart? But different people have different ideas about this. So I'm wondering what you both think, Taylor.
I think the adage needs to be updated from 10,000 to maybe 100,000, right? I mean, I don't know, like Mario was just saying, if we double in the next 16 months, right, we're almost there. So, do I think 10,000 is accurate? No. But do I understand that sentiment when we're talking larger numbers? Yes, in the sense that I believe that if gold, if we're hitting those kinds of numbers, then you have to imagine that we've probably entered some kind of phase of hyperinflation or close to it. Most people are going to lose a lot because I think most people, again, are unaware, unprepared, or don't have the means or opportunity to prepare. And there's going to be a lot of pain. So I understand it, right? It kind of reminds me of like The Big Short when they realize all the profit they can make and Brad Pitt's character says, just don't dance. It's kind of like you could celebrate if you have your medals because you're assuming you're going to have a lot of profit or you're going to be prepared or set up on the other side. But that doesn't mean there won't be a lot of people hurt in the meantime. So I understand it, but I think we got to bump the number up, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think so too. Mario, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you look back to pre-1971, we were at $35, and by 1980, we were at almost 900, and then we stayed between 400 and 250. I don't see why it couldn't go to 10,000. The world would still be. It's just a reflection of the world being a more turbulent and chaotic place, but. I think nowadays so few people understand the importance of gold that they'll be able to allow gold to go up that much. So I don't see a problem. Maybe if it goes to 250,000 like in a year's time, then there's a problem. But 10,000 is like I don't think it's a problem.
Well, it's not only gold and silver, but platinum has also had an incredible year and has quietly been breaking out. Now, it experienced similar parabolic rise and fall to silver on the final trading day of last week, and once again dropping, I believe, around 14% or around that number as we're speaking at the moment. Now, platinum, unlike gold and silver, is generally seen as a purely industrial commodity, with its main use being in catalytic converters for internal combustion engines. I believe it might also be used in hybrid vehicles as well. Why do you think it's moving along with gold and silver in this scenario? Do you think some part of the market sees it as money, or is this purely driven by industrial demands? Mario, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I think it's linked to gold because it's a hard asset, not because of it being having some monetary quality. And if you look at all the metals this year, with the exception of one or two that are up only like single digits, they're all up double digits. And the Bloomberg Commodity Index as well, that's taking off and breaking out. I think it's a reflection of the fact that we're going to have a lot of inflation because the central banks have no other option. So platinum, yeah, is going to benefit from it because all these commodities, all these metals, you can't create them out of thin air. And more and more people are realizing that is the case. So That's why I think platinum is, and gold. Gold is the leader. It always starts before. It did that in 2020, and it's doing it in the last couple of years.
And Taylor, your thoughts on platinum, and do you see it as a kind of a part of the strategy when it comes to building a precious metal stack? Do you put platinum in there, or do you view it strictly as an industrial commodity?
I view it strictly as industrial and an investment. I don't think of it as monetary, but I really agree with what Mary was saying. It actually just made me think of earlier this year. I was at the Rick Rule conference in July, and Grant Williams did a talk that I really liked, and it was about trust. Trust being best commodity and the most precious commodity moving forward. And he talked about trust collapsing right now, not only in fiat currencies, but in media, in government, right, online, all these different areas of trust that are collapsing. And in order to have any kind of semblance society moving forward or what a future looks like, you're going to have to find a way to build and regain trust. And I think that's partly why we're seeing all of the, like Mario said, hard assets, right? A return to this is because it's something you can trust. And I think that's really important as we move forward. And I don't think that's going away. I think it's only going to increase.